That was the main reason for the coming of European missionaries to Uganda. Secondly, missionaries were also interested in stopping the bad practice that used to take place in Uganda, known as slave trade, which had caused a lot of human suffering. And for that matter, they wanted to see to it that it would be brought to an end. They were also interested in reason number 3, to teach the people in Uganda reading, writing, and arithmetic, that is to say counting. And lastly, they were interested in spreading the European culture within Africa. Within Africa and then Uganda, basically being a country within Africa. Having that as the reasons for their coming, we are going to look at our second group of missionaries who came in Uganda, and that was the group of the Roman Catholic Society, or the Roman Catholics. This group of missionaries arrived in Uganda in the year 1879. That is to say, 2 years after the arrival of the Anglican missionaries. This group was comprised of Father Lodell and Brother Amans. Simon Lodell and Brother Amans were the ones who were the leaders of the Roman Catholic Society, a group of missionaries that arrived in Uganda in 1879. When they came, just like the Anglican missionaries were interested in spreading Christianity, it was the same with the Roman Catholic missionaries. They arrived and established themselves within Buganda. That is where they received a warm welcome and set up their headquarters as well within Buganda region. As these people were carrying on their work, it so happened that their coming had an impact, or rather, it caused some changes onto the lives of people within Uganda. That is to say, the effects for the coming of the European missionaries in Uganda. So, when we are generating, or when you are looking at the effects for the coming, we look at the reasons or the factors that made the missionaries to come to Uganda, and it is from those factors that we shall be in position to identify the ways through which the coming of missionaries benefited the people in Uganda. Like for example, we say missionaries were interested in teaching people how to read, write, and arithmetic. So because of their coming, they were able to introduce formal education as one of the results for their coming. What do we mean by formal education? This is the type of education that was introduced to replace the informal type of education that used to exist within Uganda. Formal education is an organized system of education where learning is conducted through an organized setting. For example, it takes place within a classroom. It is conducted or carried out by trained teachers. It involves administration of examinations, which leads into learners getting promoted from one class to another. Secondly, the benefit that the missionaries brought to Uganda as a result of their coming, they were able to spread Christianity because of their coming. Africans were able, or rather the people in Uganda, were now able to drop African traditional religion and they adopted Christianity as a religion. So therefore, they were able to spread Christianity as a result of their coming. Thirdly, because of their coming, these people also built schools. The schools for purposes of conducting formal education. And therefore, people in Africa and Uganda being able to acquire formal education. The coming of missionaries also led into the building of hospitals for the treating of different tropical diseases that existed in Uganda, for example, malaria, dysentery, among others, which claimed the lives of Africans as well as some of the European explorers who came before the arrival of missionaries later on. So their coming led into the construction of hospitals. For example, Mengo Hospital being the first hospital to be built in Uganda in the year 1897. And besides that, these missionaries were also able to treat people who were suffering from sleeping sickness. A case in reference was Dr. Racine Albert Cook, who was instrumental in treating people along the shores of Lake Victoria. Not alone that, the coming of missionaries also led into people in Uganda dropping the negative cultural practices, such as sacrifice of twins, which was backward. It was an act which involved denying such the right to life, because these children never applied to be born, but because of the backward practice that culture had in as far as that was concerned, it could deny these children the right to have life. On the other side, the negative effects of the coming of missionaries was that they ended up dividing the people in Uganda along religious grounds. This was as a result of them struggling for converts. The struggle was between, actually it was among, not between, it was among the Catholics, the Protestants, with their counterparts, the Muslims. That can be remembered in the history of Uganda under the religious wars in Uganda that took place during that time. The missionaries also led to the dropping of some of the African cultures, by them discouraging African traditional religion and then giving rise to Christianity. They also discouraged the use of traditional medicine, which on the other side didn't have very many side effects as compared to the introduction of modern medicine, which has had a lot of effects on the lives of human beings. So having said that, in our next subsequent lesson, we shall be continuing to look at some of the problems that were faced by the missionaries while in Uganda, and then we shall proceed to look at the religious wars in Buganda, as I cited earlier on. That is, the wars that took place as these different groups were struggling for converts. I would like to sign off and wish you a nice day.